What's up, everybody? It is August 11th, Wednesday night. You are live on Wrestling Inc. around the world. Here we are. It is the post AEW Dynamite show. Myself and Alfred Konuwa. And Alfred, the wrestling world is here in Pittsburgh, where I'm sitting. This is where the wrestling world, at least the AEW world, is tonight for Dynamite. Again, Friday for the debut of Rampage. We got some things going on tomorrow in Pittsburgh that I'll plug here in a few minutes. A Dynamite show, that an AEW company that is just rolling with momentum. Got some big Chicago events coming up, which we'll touch on. A lot going on. But first off, how are you feeling, Alfred? I mean, there is so much going on in wrestling. The momentum of AEW, there's not a such thing as demomentum or anti-momentum. Or something on the WWE side of things. Yes. There's just so much going on. Every time we wake up, I log on, look at my texts, look at my emails, and I go, holy shit, it's going to be another day.
And that's exactly my life now. Every time I wake up, and by wake up, I don't mean every day. I mean, if I take a nap and wake up, new stories, got to come back. So, yeah, there's just so much going on. And I do blame you, as you prognosticated. The second you left to take a vacation, everything went crazy, and the world still hasn't reset. So it might be another couple of weeks of this, Justin.
Oh, I think it might be more than a couple of weeks. I think, and it's great for people like us. I would not want to be there's some people in the wrestling world right now I would not want to be, in terms of walking on eggshells and just the general unpredictability of things right now. But for those of us who get to be onlookers and where we despise slow news days, this is a great time for us.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time we had a slow news day. You're right. It's not going to be. It's probably going to be the rest of the year. Even though it's crazy now, I mean, I can only imagine with September and October and some of these pay-per-views and potential debuts coming up. Like we're in for some pretty serious news stories.
Absolutely. We got plenty of news stories that we are going to touch on here in just a few minutes that we're on Wrestling Inc. Real quick, as everybody's kind of filtering in, I'll do it again later. So I want to give some cheap plugs tomorrow. If you are in the Pittsburgh area, if you can get there, come tomorrow. Tomorrow night from 5 to 8 at the Thirsty Scholar Bar and Grill, which is right down the street from the Peterson Event Center Arena, where AEW is. Tomorrow night, 5 to 8:30, Thirsty Scholar Bar and Grill. It'll be myself and the Busted Open crew. Myself, Dave LaGreca, the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, the wonderful and the wonderful and gifted producer with the gift of gab, Gabby Laspiza. We're all going to be there, and you never know who else might. There's some people in town, so you never know who else might walk through the door. Come join us tomorrow, 5 to 8, the Thirsty Scholar Bar and Grill. Great food, great drinks. Can be some fun wrestling talk, so check that out tomorrow night. If you can get to Pittsburgh, it'll be well worth it for a Thursday night. And also, if you are an AEW fan of the roster, I can't give you all the details. I'll just say this. Follow my Twitter tomorrow morning around 10 a.m. You might see some very cool things happening on that Twitter with the AEW roster. So I'll go ahead and put that out there. So do all those things. Alfred, let's jump into some news as we wait for everybody else to get in here, as we continue to look at recap AEW Dynamite as we do every week. We'll start with, and actually the one NXT story, the one non-AEW story we have, and it is, Bronson Reed, one of the released NXT talents, surprising, probably the lead surprising of the talents that were released. And he had kind of an interesting tweet as NXT was on TV last night back on the USA Network. As the show was going on, he tweeted a clip from the Simpsons show where Elvis fires the gun at the TV and says, "This show ain't no good." So Bronson Reed, certainly, again, probably the most surprising of the crop of NXT talents that were released, and letting his thoughts out there about the NXT show without him.
He is. He does seem very kind of fired up about this, even immediately when he was released. The way I found out about all these releases was Bronson Reed's tweet, and it said, "You have no idea what you've done." So he is kind of a fired up monster right now. He's been fielding questions. He's been very public and vocal about this release, which you could just tell if you've been following Bronson these past couple of days. Really took him by surprise, and it's really kind of sad because he's an international guy. He's from overseas in Australia, I believe, and he was in here just for wrestling, and so he's going to have to get that worked out in terms of work visas and whatnot. But yeah, Bronson is not going to let WWE forget. I hope he uses this for positive, and it seems like he will. Positive motivation in terms of showing the world what he's got, which I think everybody knows how talented he is. And I just want to say, has any television show provided the world with more viral tweets than The Simpsons? They have so many, this was one from Bronson Reed, but they've got the Homer tweet where he goes into the bushes. They've got the Bart Simpson, you tried. They've got so many viral tweets. That show's timeless.
Well, it should. It's been around for 30 freaking years. I would hope they have some things to go viral. Yeah, Bronson Reed. He's certainly one of the ones you release and you go, this had to be a decision made very last minute. He just he was winning titles on NXT. He was doing dark matches on the main roster, which usually is the signal of you're getting ready to go to TV on Raw or SmackDown. So yeah, I can imagine, as you said, and never mind the personal factor that you bring up, Alfred. He's a guy. He's also Australian. You relocate yourself to Florida for this dream, and you're bust your butt, and now you're this close. You're getting dark matches on Raw or SmackDown, so you're ready to go onto the top platform, make the top money that you can, and then to just for budget cuts, as you're told. I mean, it's again, it's not a dull time for people like us, but it is a frustrating time for many that are coming out of the Stanford area code. Keeping on here with the headlines we have going on in the wrestling world. These are AEW headlines. Tony Khan, who of course does his weekly appearance on Busted Open Radio, he did that today. He teased 2 UFC champions on Dynamite next week. Now, you might recall originally they had a plan to kind of follow up with the Dan Lambert of American Top Team. Of course, he was at the Miami Dynamite several weeks ago, and we originally said that they were going to follow up with that tonight, and then they ended up bumping that. And Tony Khan, you can read the full quotes on Wrestling Inc. that he gave to Dave LaGreca and the guys that Busted Open. But basically talked about how they got a lot of things going on Dynamite, and then they wanted to make sure this Dan Lambert stuff, essentially, booking-wise, they didn't want it to get rushed or to step on some of these other things like Britt and Red Velvet being promoted for this Friday's Rampage. So they pushed it the next week, but he added on and teased some UFC champions. So, Alfred, I know you and I had a blast with this segment a few weeks ago, and Dan Lambert came out there and basically embodied Jim Cornette in a promo. Are you more excited for this now that he's teasing more MMA involvement?
I didn't know if there was a way I could be more excited knowing Dan Lambert's coming back, because I thought he was the man, and I just think he's so good as a talker. And yes, I am excited. I think this is an underrated part of the Forbidden Door, is that element of UFC fighters coming through, because you saw that Amanda Nunes and Jorge Masvidal, who are 2 of UFC's biggest stars in terms of legitimate box office draws, maybe not so much with Nunes, but she might be pound for pound the best fighter in the world in terms of UFC. So they brought 2 heavy hitters in terms of Nunes and Masvidal. And so these 2 I have high hopes for. Maybe they will be some pretty stacked champions. I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in terms of the UFC champions who come through there. I know Dan Lambert's the big tag, the thing that he was teasing was that he's going to bring backup. He's going to bring protection. So, my mind obviously immediately went to some free agent from WWE, but maybe this UFC backup is it. And I hope that they're pretty big names. Yeah.
So again, every week with AEW, there is a must-see kind of tune-in feel if you just don't know who's going to pop up, or you might think and you want to tune in to see if you're right. So yeah, this is exciting, and I think that's a great quote by you, Alfred. It's an underrated part of the Forbidden Door. As we'll talk about here with tonight's Dynamite, NWA interaction, heavy Impact interaction right now, but having the MMA world, something that has been there unspoken for the last 15 years by way of WWE, with the Brock Lesnar's and Bobby Lashley's and Matt Riddle's and Shayna Baszler's and Ronda Rousey's, but they will allude to the shoot background they have, but they very rarely do they dip into the let's just go out and talk about UFC or let's show UFC footage. So again, more of that door that Tony Khan's being willing to unlock, and in some cases just kick down. So absolutely. There's that. Speaking of Tony Khan, in addition to giving that little tease about the Dan Lambert situation, Tony Khan also had another quote that was worthwhile. Probably the most notable is he made a quote about the 2nd episode of Rampage, which of course will be a week from this Friday. This Friday is the debut here in Pittsburgh. Next Friday, of course, is the record sellout time they did at the United Center in Chicago. And Tony Khan, let me make sure I get the quote right here. I don't want to miss this one. So Tony Khan, as he's talking about it, he goes in mid of the conversation, mid conversation, he goes, furthermore, we'll hear a little bit more about what's coming on Rampage. It's going to be a huge card, and tonight we'll establish more of what's coming on the premiere of Rampage. That, of course, is this Friday. And to resume the quote, he goes, of course, I think everyone knows what to expect on the 2nd episode of Rampage, which is titled The First Dance, and I expect the anticipation will continue to build. So I repeat, he says, of course, I think everyone knows what to expect on the 2nd episode of Rampage. So they are just casting that line out there and just keep it going.
They've done everything but say the word CM Punk. And,
Yeah.
you saw the chance tonight.
Yeah.
AEW is all too willing to play along in terms of these rumors and selling. This is very impressive. I don't think I've quite seen anything like it in that, that AEW has a very loyal kind of specific crowd in that they've sold out the United Center on pure speculation. Usually with ticket sales, the way they work is you're going to only sell so many until you got to start announcing people. And yes, part of that is AEW's momentum right now that they can sell out these venues, but going specifically to Chicago, to such a big venue and selling it out so quickly because word on the street is that CM Punk is going to get in there. That is very impressive. And I hope for AEW's lives that CM Punk shows up at that show. I know they haven't said it yet and technically they haven't announced it, but that, you don't want to play with Chicago in this scenario.
No, I mean, if at this point, if CM Punk does not, at the very least, has to appear on video. But I mean, if CM Punk does not appear on the second episode of Rampage at the United Center, move over Dixie Carter. Tony Khan will have, taken over that throne of the ultimate, I don't want to say troll, but the ultimate,
Troll's the right word.
Make you believe I had this big surprise, which, by the way, I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm being very, facetious here, but I don't think it's gonna happen. I think they and I guess props to AEW and Tony Khan ultimately. And it feels like he's walking a very fine line because he had said, and it might have even been on Busted Open, but he said in an interview at some point in past months. I think it was not long after Sting made his debut. Remember, folks, Sting debuted on Dynamite completely cold.
Yeah.
Complete cold surprise. There was no hint to it. There had been weeks and months prior speculation that Sting and WWE were not in the best of terms, because like merch was getting pulled and toys were getting pulled and, but there wasn't like a huge rumor out there like Sting's showing up on AEW this week. And so he did. It was a huge moment. But I think Tony Khan had referenced that like TNT was like kind of like, it's kind of nice when we can promote these things and it does a better number. And so here you are like wanting to give people that surprise. It's still going to be a huge pop, presumably when Punk shows up. But so it's like the buzz is there for people to tune in to this new show, Rampage. But they haven't had to, in the old fashioned wrestling carny in you don't want to like, you want people to have to tune in to see in what context, where is he going to show up, what's he going to do, who's he going to stare down, who's he going to attack, whatever the case may be. So props to AEW, they are walking the fine line of like giving people a reason to tune in, but still making it a surprise.
Absolutely. And to the point about the television network, like I, as a wrestling fan, would rather there be a little bit of mystery and whatnot. Yeah, I would be a little deflated if they announced it and then you have to just kind of sit and wait for it. I would rather it be somewhat of a surprise, but no matter what, no matter how much they hint toward it, they're always going to do a much better number had they have announced it. So I just wonder if this is going to also be something that TNT says, man, this is a couple people now. So, maybe the Daniel Bryan thing you can announce. I don't know.
Well, I think the way it's going to be, Alfred, my prediction here is, I think they're obviously, we have just over a week and just under a week and a half until that Rampage. I don't think they're going to at all say CM Punk's going to be there. They're letting, again, like you said, the sellout happen due to speculation. I think Punk can make his appearance, get a huge pop, and it can be a very cliffhanging appearance. It could be just as simple as hear some music and see him standing on a stage. He doesn't have to even do anything. But just the confirmation that he's there, he's with them now.
Right.
And then tune in the next Wednesday on Dynamite to find out what CM Punk's, who his eyes are set on, what he wants to do. And so you still get the surprise and you get it for your brand new show on Rampage in his backyard. But then you get the, pump the media, pump it hard for next Wednesday. We're telling you he's going to be on Dynamite, and now you're going to find out who's, what his first storyline is going to be. So
that'd be a great way to do it.
Yeah, you can milk this out a little bit, and then you get to milk to the first match whenever that's again. You'd think All Out and back again in Chicago and do a big pay-per-view buy, probably a record pay-per-view buy for the company at that point. So so much going on here in AW. So let's run into Dynamite real quick. Once again, I'll make the plug real quick. I see we've added some people again tomorrow. If you're going to be in the Pittsburgh area, as we're sandwiched in between Dynamite and Rampage, if you're going to be in the Pittsburgh area, Mark Henry, of course, who's part of the Rampage commentary team Friday. Mark Henry, world's strongest man, great guy. Mark Henry, Dave LaGreca, Gabby, myself, all of us from Busted Open on Sirius XM. Of course, I do my segment every Friday with them. We're all going to be at the Thirsty Scholar Bar and Grill. It's right down the street from the Peterson Event Center. Going to be a good time, 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Good food, good drinks. Going to do some wrestling talk, Q&A. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. There is a ticket process. Go on social media. You can find it, mine, Mark's, Dave's, wherever. So see everybody there. And then, of course, tomorrow morning, if you like the AEW superstars, you like the AEW roster, I highly encourage you. Follow me at Just LaBar on Twitter around like 10 o'clock tomorrow morning Eastern time. I think you'll see some very fun video interactions going on. All right, with that said, here we go, Alfred. We kick off Dynamite in Pittsburgh, the Peterson Event Center, and we actually get a pre-tape MJF Wardlow promo where MJF, setting the scene tonight for the fourth labor of Jericho versus Wardlow, and if Jericho can get this win, he will finally get his rematch against MJF. But MJF just noting how, Chris, you just can't. It's been too much for you. But they do, probably the most notable thing out of this, Alfred, is they do kind of give they still keep that little seed planted of potential MJF Wardlow issues. As MJF says to Wardlow says something like, oh, he's definitely going down. I'm definitely beating him, something to that effect. And MJF goes, oh, yeah, just like how, Cody beat you in the cage. Just get the job done. And so we just planted a little seed there of, keep your eyes on it. But a good way to start, obviously, it's going to set up the main event. But we get into our opening match. Dante Martin and the Sydal brothers up against the Bucks and Kenny Omega being the Elite. A great opening match. Just six-man action all over the place. And we'll stick it to the match here first. Being the Elite gets a win. I thought that this is a great way to open. Hot crowd. Put 6 athletic guys out there and just let them run loose.
Dante Martin is 20 years old. Like, think about that. Based on what you saw and how he just tore that entire building down, that man is 20 years old, and it was incredible. They really made to showcase him. His comeback was incredible. It was so funny how he set up his own tag where he went in there, did this crazy stuff, got back out, waited for the tag, got back in, and just completely, I thought he was next level tonight. I thought everybody was great. This was a perfect opening match. When I saw that this was a match that they had announced, I was hoping this would open the show. It just seemed like such a perfect type of match to open it, and everybody delivered. I just thought this was really good.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Dante Martin. There were a couple stars early on in the show. Dante Martin, and then we'll get to the next one here in a few minutes. Dante Martin, you're right, looked great. But being the Elite does get the win, no surprise here. And then post-match, Christian interrupts being the Elite. Christian, plus he's got Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. Christian cutting some promo on Don Callis. Calls him a Carney Jagoff. Jagoff is a Pittsburghese word.
Oh, yes, it is. He got a huge pop from that. And he also got to say the S word tonight.
Twice,
2 times.
And so and we find out here that Kenny Omega, of course, we know that Christian Cage is the #1 contender for the AEW World title, and that's going to take place at All Out. But we find out that Christian Cage is also going to take on Kenny Omega. And it's going to be this Friday, or this Friday or next Friday? This Friday. This Friday. This Friday. This is going to be the very first match, in fact, this Friday on the debut of Rampage. He's going to take on Kenny Omega for the Impact World title. Alfred, do you agree with the booking decision that 2.5 weeks out from your big all-out pay-per-view for your in-house AEW World title, giving these two guys for the other company's world title? Do you like this?
No, not at all. I legitimately thought this was a mistake. When he said this Friday you're going to be defending that against me, I was like, oh no, Christian messed up. But they were being serious. I couldn't believe it. Like, I can't understand this. I don't really expect even a 50-50 situation. I expect Christian to possibly lose both these matches because Kenny Omega loses the first match. You really kind of water down that AEW World title for your big pay-per-view. So I don't know what the thinking is behind this. I'm not against Kenny Omega defending the other company's title on a future Rampage, but just not 2 times against Christian if there's going to be a pay-per-view match. And the thing is, he's undefeated. That's the big drawing card with Christian, is that right now he hasn't lost in AEW. They tell you that every single week, and they potentially might give that away on an episode of Rampage. That's very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm really torn with this because I'm having a hard time, and this maybe will be credit to them if they can if they outsmart me. I'm having a hard time trying to figure out how this becomes a good situation. Like you said, if Christian beats Omega, now you've just you've certainly taken something away from your AEW World Champion. And at the end of the day, AEW is #1 here. They need to look out for themselves. They don't need Impact. They don't need the NWA. I know Tony Khan will never say this publicly, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. It's charitable of AEW to give the screen time, the TV time to Impact, to NWA. It's a good PR move to the fans, but AEW does not need them. Impact and NWA need AEW a hell of a lot more. So you don't want to water down your undefeated champion. Or not, well, yeah, well, you don't want to water down your champion, but you also don't want to water down the guy, who's come over from WWE, who's undefeated in Christian, and like I don't know how, but if Christian loses, he loses. He couldn't even win the Impact title, but he gets another go at it for now a year more important title. And AEW, they don't do F finishes. They don't do screwy. They have a winner and a loser for better or for worse sometimes. But they don't believe really in screwy DQs or non-finishes. So I'm trying to figure out how and the other thing I can think of is like, well, okay, Christian Cage kind of seems like he's like this, he's in the way of this fantasy booking by fans of CM Punk coming in.
Yes.
So I'm like, how does that play in? But the match between Omega and Cage is this Friday. Punk's not showing up here in Pittsburgh. So I'm just trying to figure out where the hell what are we doing here? It would make more sense if Christian Cage is challenging for the Impact title against Omega the Friday at the United Center. So I'm like, okay, well, there's your out for an F finish is somehow Punk. But I don't know how we get to this.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And did you notice? I mean, some people were booing Christian. He kind of, like a pro, he really talked over it, and he ended up cutting a very good promo. But when he mentioned that he was getting that title shot, the people did not seem very happy with that.
The whole arena started chanting CM Punk.
Yes. They chanted for every former. Then they started doing yes chants. They chanted for every former WWE guy except for Christian.
Except for him. I mean, if you guys DVR at AEW, go back, and when they start chanting CM Punk, look at Jungle Boy's face. I love Jungle Boy. His face, he looked over at Luchasaurus, and his face was kind of like, oh. It was really funny.
We're going to be good hots.
So Super Chat kind of related to all this. Corey Pride, $5. Thank you, Corey. He goes, does Adam Page have heat? I like Christian, but why isn't AEW pushing Cowboy Shiznit to the moon? And of course, Adam Page, a ton of momentum. He's the one who, like, fans were before these CM Punk rumors really exploded in the last couple weeks. Adam Page was the guy these fans are chanting for. As Omega was coming out week in and week out saying, I have nobody else left to challenge me. I've beat everybody. Adam Page was who the fans were like, you haven't beat him. We need this. Corey, I don't think it's heat. No, first of all, I don't think it's heat. First off, Adam Page is an extremely likable guy behind the scenes. I don't think there's heat. In fact, I don't like to speculate on personal lives, but I think I heard from a reputable place that I believe, and congrats to him if this is the case, that he might be having a birth of a child soon. Mm-hmm. So that certainly would be reason to, put a delay in timeline of booking if a big personal life moment going on here and guy wants to be home, rightfully so. But even if that's, and I'm pretty sure, but even if that's not Corey Pride, no, I don't think there's heat. I just think even if that wasn't the case, if all of a sudden CM Punk starts to fall in your lap, if you finally get a deal done with this guy, you gotta call an audible. It doesn't mean that Adam Page doesn't still win an AEW world title. And we don't even know for sure if CM Punk, if he comes in, if he's going to be challenging for the world title. We don't even know if Kenny Omega is his first. I don't even, that's not a given. So for all we know, Omega and Christian Cage is what gets us through these next few weeks. And we got a big show coming up in Queens at the end of September at that Arthur Ashe Stadium. Maybe that's where Page is in line. So, I don't think there's any heat. I just think there's just audibles being called on the booking timeline for several reasons. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's quite the opposite in terms of they do have long-term plans for him. And there's part of that is, Hangman Adam Page doing like a long chase to where by the time he challenges for that first time, or at least challenges Kenny Omega for the first time, I think he's going to win that match. I think they kind of planted those seeds that he might not win this. It's shocked as I was that he lost that elimination match. They planted the seeds because the whole thing is based on him not being confident enough to go and challenge. And your Dark Order had to pump him up like, no, you can do this. And, this might just be a setback for him. And I just think it's pretty good nuanced storytelling rather than him being buried or having heat or anything. And I just actually thought of something with Christian. I think that match has to end in a draw. Maybe that's the way out of this is you just have Kenny Omega and Christian go to a draw so they can do a holding pattern with that. But, that doesn't make it any better idea.
The match this Friday?
The matches between Christian and Kenny Omega. I think it has to be a draw.
I think I thought they said that that's going to be the very first match on the show. So if that's the case, it's not like you can pull the whole TV time or anything. I mean, you'd have to, I guess, just say this match, it's a world title match that has a time limit of 1 hour. I mean,
does it have to be minimum 1 hour? I would think that it was.
I think you will. Again, I think in the past AEW, because they do like to announce time limits and they like to acknowledge that kind of stuff. They have said like your regular matches with no titles or whatever usually get like a 20-minute time limit.
Right.
And I think title matches they always say get an hour time limit. So that would almost light up that.
That's the case, no, you don't.
Yeah, I mean you're not gonna kick off Rampage at 10 p.m. and give me an hour match between for a title. It's not even your company's title.
Yeah, that'd be okay. If it's no, I don't want it to go an hour. But
I love you, Alfred, but I gotta stop.
I'm trying to find a way out of this here. Maybe because it's an hour-long show, they'll cut down the time limits. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Maybe I don't know.
That would be pretty. That would be a troll job if they went an hour for the Impact title on an hour-long show, and CM Punk didn't show up. Can you imagine?
Kayla Mick $2 says Dante Martin versus Reggie would be fun. All right.
Yeah, it would be fun. Maybe Jack Cartwheel versus Reggie. They both kind of do the same type of thing.
JJ Smith $5. I think something will happen on Friday where we get Omega versus someone else at All Out, possibly someone from New Japan. All right. I mean, I guess that's a factor too. You could have the Omega versus Christian match Friday and like essentially write Christian off TV for a few weeks. He gets injured, being the elite attacks, whatever. So I guess that's a way to like all of a sudden, again, Kenny Omega's back to the same old shtick. I got nobody to face. I got, and
yeah.
And then it's next Friday on Rampage. We might have found an opponent for you. We'll announce the next, I mean, so I there's a way. JJ's getting the booking wheels turning. David Flores $4.99. I gotta admit, I like it at first, but seeing title after title from company after company on AEW watered down the show for me. So he's not a fan of the Forbidden Door.
I actually kind of like how they're doing it. It hasn't watered it down for me. I get that. I get you want to protect certain titles, but I think that kind of adds to AEW. I know they don't consider themselves an alternative, but if it is something different that you're looking for in wrestling, the fact that they have titles represented from other companies, if they were all AEW titles, I think that would water it down for me more than them being from different companies.
Here's another booking suggestion that would at least justify or try to justify Christian versus Omega potentially twice. Wrestling fan $4.99 says, are they setting up Christian winning the Impact title in a champ versus champ winner takes all title match? Christian deserves better than these boos. Wrestling fan, I don't think so. But that would be that'd be a better solution than what I mean. It's better than what Alfred and I have come up with thus far.
I do like that. That is very interesting. And especially if it's a winner take all and we just kind of reset the status quo with Kenny Omega winning, it would still hurt him and it would still kind of hurt that match. But if he gets everything back, that'd be fine.
And best in the smokers world, $5. Maybe the elite injures Christian on Friday. Yeah, kind of like what I noted there. He says he will pick his replacement on Rampage the following Friday to face Omega at a lot. Well, that would be a way to try to babyface Christian with a rub, as he gets to pick CM Punk as his replacement. All right, I kind of like that. That makes me laugh. All right, so there we go. And also, it should not be lost in all this. So Omega versus Christian's announced for Friday. Jungle Boy also says they also got to talk to Tony Khan and Scott D'Amore of Impact, that they also have title matches next Wednesday, and Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus are going to challenge the Young Bucks for the tag titles. So something there to look forward to going on in upcoming programming. All right, so we get a little promo too. The Rhodes to the Top. This is the reality show behind the scenes that Brandy and Cody Rhodes are the stars of. Alfred, I don't know about you. I mean, I think everybody, we all love behind the curtain stuff. We all love behind the scenes, pull the curtain back. So this looks, the trailer was really well done. You get it's got a mix of the Total Divas feel of the at-home life. It's got the backstage stuff going on at AEW. So they've been filming this for a better part of a year, I believe. So, I thought this was a good first trailer I've seen, and it definitely got my interest.
Yeah, I'm very much interested in this. I can't get enough of content about the behind-the-scenes stuff. I love those stuff on the Peacock now on WWE Network, where it's the day of events, and they're doing the Chronicle events, and you get to see them behind the scenes and kind of themselves in their natural environment. Now, I do think that these ratings should be good and should help the women viewership of AEW, which can be up and down, but they do relatively strong in women, and I think this is only going to get better with a show like this.
That's a good call. The anytime you do these it's been proven in the WWE universe when you do these. I'm gonna use a stereotypical term. When you use these Real Housewives type of format, it does help your female demo. I have met a lot of females over the last better part of 8 years who have through one thing, whether they're the wife or girlfriend of a guy friend I know, or however I've come across them, who say that they have WWE became more on the radar because they watch Total Bellas, or they watch Total Divas, or they watched Miz and Maurice, and because they liked seeing the women and the house life and the home life and all the different funny storylines of these things, and it made them more invested and more aware of the the wrestling product, and not the pro wrestling product, but the bigger than life spectacle that is the sports entertainment aspect. So I mean, I think this is a great play by AEW to try this. I don't think there's no loss here for them to do this. All right, so Dante Martin is a stud. Another stud here in this first half hour basically is Daniel Garcia. He's out here for a singles match against Darby Allin. Daniel Garcia's got 2.0 in his corner. Darby Allin, of course, has Sting. Darby gets the win, but Daniel Garcia, again, is looking like money. I think he's like 22, so he's 2 years older than Dante Martin. So some young talent here. Darby gets a win after the fact. Sting helps beat up 2.0. Sting delivers a back suplex on the ramp. Yeah. So he's got to take a back bump doing this, which he did. I was like, all right, Sting, I see you. But pretty good match here. But again, Darby gets a win as he should. Daniel Garcia, though, or really social media really noticing how good he is.
Very rarely do you see Darby Allin outshining a match, and I'm sure that was the goal of this match, to showcase Daniel Garcia. But Darby Allin might be the biggest star that they have, and Garcia held his own with him and really stood out front and center in terms of a really rising star. I really love what I saw out of him. I've seen a couple matches from him in the past. I believe he's been on some episodes of Elevation, but he looked incredible in this match. I thought this was really good.
Darby Allin's been another rumored opponent for CM Punk. For your money, Alfred, what are you more enticed by? CM Punk coming in, and I think Punk too. And I think this is legit. Punk has always said in interviews whenever he's asked about coming back to wrestling that one of the besides the money, he wants the creative. He wants it to be something that interests him, which I've always interpreted as, don't say, oh, we want CM Punk versus, and then pick a guy who he wrestled already in WWE. He wants a fresh opponent. He wants something that he has not done. Kenny Omega and Darby Allin are both something he has not done. For your money, what is more intriguing, CM Punk versus Darby Allin or CM Punk versus Kenny Omega?
I think that's a good question, but I think Darby Allin would be the more intriguing, because I think CM Punk at his peak, and why he's so great and such a Hall of Famer, is he's good at telling stories. He's good at the storyline aspect and the promo aspect. I think that's always been the thing with CM Punk. One of my favorite matches ever is that match he had against John Cena at Money in the Bank. And the reason I love the match so much is the storyline leading up to it was so good. And I think CM Punk could just creatively sink his teeth into a feud with Darby Allin. I think Kenny Omega is kind of, a lot of people think is a dream match in terms of these two talents going in there. And that'd be fun to watch from a wrestling standpoint. And I'm sure they'd have a good story to tell. But with Darby Allin, I think, and I think AEW realized that this would be a very intriguing feud. That's why Darby Allin had that mention of the best in the world talking about CM Punk.
Bro, that 2011 Money in the Bank from Chicago.
Yeah.
I was on vacation. Again, I always leave on vacation when things are happening. I was in Florida the week of this pay-per-view, and I made a point to drop what I was doing in Florida and drove 30 minutes to the nearest Hooters and watched in a crowded Hooters CM Punk versus John Cena with all the speculation coming off the pipe bomb and everything. And yeah, you're right. That was the story going into that.
Yes.
I always take vacations. This shit happens.
Just resetting the wrestling world, man.
I am. I punch out, they all punch in. All right. We get a 6-man tag match here, trios. We get the Best Friends up against Matt Hardy and Private Party. This match was kind of chaos. I like a lot of the individuals in this, and I love Matt. There's a lot of chaos going on here, and the manufactured ref spots and distraction. Chaos happens. Ultimately, though, Matt Hardy hits the twist of fate on Wheeler Yuta, and the Hardy family office gets the win here. Alfred, what's your thought of this? I mean, Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends, they're over. Matt Hardy's Matt frickin' Hardy. Are you invested in this Matt Hardy stable? Because
No, no.
I'll be honest, and I love Matt. I've worked with Matt many times. I love Matt Hardy, but I'm going to say this: this stable feels this feels forced.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to really get in. It's not that in Private Party's good when they're out there on their own. The Blade and the Bunny are good when I see them. All the players involved in this are all talented, but this odd couple, this it just seems forced. I'm trying to get into it, but I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, it was most interesting when they were telling the story that Matt Hardy's this carny who's stealing their money. And you would think, I thought that the direction was they're eventually going to turn on him. They're going to figure out that he's a carny and they're going to go their separate ways. But the fact that they're now trying this round peg in a square hole and they're doing it week after week without telling you why they're still together or anything like that, it definitely seems forced. And it does seem like secondary in terms of the story that AEW is telling and why a stable is together. I just feel like, I don't know why they're even I know they're the Hardy family office because he's the businessman and whatnot, but they're not really telling you that, and it's not telegraphed. So yeah, they don't really do anything with them unless they have like a trios match to do. And I did think Orange Cassidy was really good in this match. He introduced a couple of new wrinkles that I haven't seen in a while in terms of the bottom rope splash and putting his hand in. I thought he was really good in this match, and the crowd was all too happy to participate in all his zaniness. So I like that part of the match.
Yeah, the sequence of him trying to do the hand in the pockets and Hardy doing the delete to swap it away, and yeah, it's good stuff there. John Jordan, $4.99. Wild times, but great for the business. My kid, who's 12, has loved NXT forever. He's met many talents and loyalty runs deep. He's leaning hard. Speaks volumes. So very
that's
cool.
Good.
Very
that's
cool.
Awesome.
All right. Up next, Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander. She's back out there with best friends, all selling their loss physically as well. This one, Alfred, maybe the surprise of the night. Nyla Rose versus Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander ends up winning clean. No shenanigans here. Chris Statlander wins with the area 450 splash. And the commentary kind of alluded to it. She's not officially, but I don't think she's officially. But I mean, as a babyface, she just positioned herself to probably be the number one contender to the women's title after Britt and Red Velvet have their match Friday.
For sure. No, absolutely. I mean, ever since she's come back, she's been winning all of her matches and looked really good. And I thought she was good in here. And it's funny because the commentary I've seen the past few weeks that clearly they're not smart enough to the finish because there was that unfortunate incident with Jim Ross calling that Hangman Adam Page had pinned the champion and whatnot. They just kind of go at it naturally. And I feel like the same thing happened tonight where they expected probably Nyla Rose to win. And when Chris Statlander won this match, they seemed legitimately shocked. They're like, what? Really? Oh, wow, that's an upset. And I kind of like that. It added a good touch because I assumed that Nyla Rose was going to win this one. But this is really cool. And another thing I like that AEW does is the segment before they had Nyla Rose come in and attack Chris Statlander to soften her up. Yeah. And then that led into the match. So they had this continuity. And that's kind of why I thought Nyla was going to win too. But Statlander's looking really strong. I'm surprised she's not the number one contender already. And I'm guessing maybe that's going to be the match for Britt Baker at All Out.
I think so too, and I'm glad you did that. You filled that spot in. You're right. Nyla did, and as part of my chaos my notes here. In the chaos and the Matt Hardy private party versus best friends of all the moving parts and ref distractions, right? Nyla Rose came out and did get a knock on to best friends and to Chris Statlander. So yeah, Statlander's going in there, kind of already. Fighting an uphill battle. So that made the win that much bigger for her, a clean win again. And yeah, I mean, she's, an Rover baby face, traditional baby face. Britt is still the heel, but it certainly seemed like that's where we are going to All Out. And Chris Statlander was who they seemed to have a pretty good investment behind in the first place. And then she got injured and was out for 6 or 8 months. So it seems like they're finally picking back up with where they wanted to be with her. I'm a huge Chris Statlander fan.
Me too.
I love her look. The gimmick's goofy, but I like it because it is
done as much with the gimmick though. I feel like they've kind of backed off of the whole alien thing because this is always a segment where they would talk about it and Jim Ross would get upset, and I feel like it's not as much of that.
There's no aliens in Oklahoma. No, but they have, but like it's still there because it's still part of her identity. It still makes her be okay. Like explain to me who Chris Statlander is in 2 sentences. It makes her stand out from just being, another girl, just another, it gives her something of an identity, but it's not as cartoony.
Right.
I guess. But I agree. I think that her versus Britt is probably where we're headed, and we'll get to Britt here in just a second. We pause for a super chat. David Flores, $1.99. CM Punk AEW Dream Match. Wrong answers only.
I'm going with Layla Hirsch. Oh, that would be a fun match. Hey, listen, Layla Hirsch might be able to take CM Punk in real life after seeing him in the UFC. No, come on, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go with CM Punk versus The Big Show or Paul White. Excuse me. Just give people something they probably saw in a million house show loops at some point or another in WWE.
The crowd would not like that if it went too
right. All right. I guess that's the point. Hang on. I'll change to my. And this is OG. This is before. This is not AEW. This is the first piece. One of the first. This might be actually the first piece of merch she ever had made.
I like that.
When she was here with us in Pittsburgh. So I dug it out of a box to.
That is awesome.
Today. So Britt comes out for the in-ring with Tony Schiavone, cuts the huge hometown promo. They had the Britsburg terrible towels going. She still comes out of the heel tunnel. She still cuts the heel promo. Obviously, again, though, there's and I actually saw people bitching about this on social media, and I got to acknowledge this. People were bitching on a few, minority, bitching about oh, she's the heel. Why is she cutting this babyface hometown promo? And it's it would be utterly ridiculous just for her to not acknowledge this is where I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I kind of feel like WWE would tell her to go out there and shit on where she came from. AEW at least just acknowledges we help sell out this. We help sell these tickets because I live here in Pittsburgh, so every piece of local marketing, billboards, TV commercials, everything has had Britt on it. Rightfully so. Why would you not? So, so she comes out, does the huge hometown promo. Again, she's on fire right now. She can't miss. After the promo, Red Velvet does come out. They have a little bit of a Joey Styles cat fight, and the refs are pulling them apart. But Red Velvet versus Britt Baker, that's gonna be the main event for this Friday's debut episode of Rampage, still here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, Red Velvet doesn't have a chance in that match. And poor Red Velvet, I go in there, like you said, kind of as a babyface, but definitely not to this crowd because this was Britt's hometown crowd, and she did such a great job. It was almost like an election speech that she cut, like she was running for office. And these people, I love that they gave them terrible towels too, but I wish, I don't know how much more expensive it would have been, but I wish everybody would have gotten, that would have been such a cool visual to see everybody in that arena with that terrible towel because they had that overhead shot. But I thought Britt was just great in this, and it's so hard to believe that she's still a heel, but she plays a heel character so well but it's just only a matter of time. I mean, I feel like maybe even after this Red Velvet, but if it's going to be Chris Statlander, she kind of still has to be a heel. So, I mean, she's a babyface. Even though it was a hometown crowd, she's been getting these reactions everywhere.
And I don't I've always revered Stone Cold to be my favorite of all time. So I don't lightly like to ever compare anybody to him or anything about his booking. But there is a very short list of performers in the modern day being the last 30 years, that the character just gets so over and it starts as a heel, and it's we have to let the fans just like this character, but we can't soften the character.
Right.
Stone Cold, with a few exceptions, those being, saving Stephanie McMahon for being, married to the Undertaker and sacrificed on a symbol. With the exception of a few things, Stone Cold Steve Austin never got soft. He kept being the same, crazy guy, but he just was doing it against heels.
Right.
Britt's she's moving in that same territory where you can't soften her up. She still has to be the baddest bitch on the block. She still has to be, utterly sarcastic and self-conceited. She's just going to start beating other heels. That's the only way to go with this. Oh,
that'd be great.
I don't know. That's cool. This show was a touching show for me. Her, and then we went to Wardlow again. And Wardlow, they gave the mention IWC Wrestling again, where Britt started, where Wardlow was here. Managed Wardlow from the beginning. I knew Britt from her first day of training. She was on Chair Shot Reality with me for many years. So it's one of those things where it's You knew them before anybody else knew who they were, and it's so touching. Like I literally was so emotional watching this show tonight.
That's
like,
awesome, man.
I was,
yeah, because they were the big stars. Wardlow main evented and looked fantastic. We'll get into that in terms of how strongly he was booked. That's about as well as you can get booked in a defeat. But yeah, and Britt Baker was just the star of the show, and I just thought she was so great in that promo.
It was such a such a personal. Like, I know some people are gonna be like, "Oh, LaBar, shut up," but it was such a like I can think of like spending like birthday parties with them, or I can think of like when my first child was born, Britt. I have all these memories, and I was just so like just sitting there tonight, just watching this, and I wasn't there tonight. Obviously, I was here at home getting ready to do the podcast with Alfred, which I was very excited about. And I'm just watching here from the basement, and I even said to my wife, because she knows both of them, she knows Britt really well, and I was like, this is just insane, just which is why I wanted to pull this out, because there's a lot of funny inside jokes with this. So I was so proud. I am still so proud. So this was huge. Awesome. So Britt on the roll. All right, Britt, you got your hat thing.
Oh, you're not. You should wear it for the rest of the show. Shout out to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. If anybody's been to this is the Pittsburgh skyline.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That is the Pittsburgh skyline. All right, picking back up. All right, so we get some Dark Order action. Uno and Stu Grayson up against the Good Brothers for the Impact tag titles. Impact executive Scott D'Amore, he's on commentary. Again, some distractions, some shenanigans. Good Brothers ultimately though win with the Magic Killer. I'll ask you again: do you like the Impact tag titles being defended here?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it. I only kind of had a problem with it because this is more of an Impact problem, but they were already established as the big storyline was if they won, they got a shot at the AEW tag team titles, and they clearly weren't good enough to do that. Unfortunately, they lost that match, and so now it's almost like, okay, now we'll just throw you the Impact tag titles. So yeah, you do run the risk of these titles kind of getting a hierarchy, but that's how it should be. If you're on the AEW show, the AEW titles should be presented as the big titles. But aside from the politics behind that, I thought this match was incredible. I thought Stu Grayson, he's one of the biggest overachievers in terms of a guy who nobody says, with all due respect to him, this is just how he's positioned. Nobody says that, oh, I can't wait to see Stu Grayson tonight. But when you do see Stu Grayson, you'll leave the arena talking about him. I thought he stole the show again in that elimination match a couple of weeks back, and him and Evil Uno doing that comeback where he had the cannonball roll and the 450 splash at the same time. Yeah. I just love these two together. And the Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, Luke Gallows are always a solid tag team. I just like this match a lot. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, that sequence you just referenced right there with the cannonball and everything, really good. And props to Uno and Grayson. They in this match, there was a couple false finishes that like really had me for a second. Like, yes. All right, because we're going with this theme of Impact titles being defended. So it's like, all right, if the world title's not gonna switch hands, maybe this one does. And you got D'Amore who's on commentary, so maybe he sells it. I actually did have a moment where I thought maybe the Dark Order was gonna grab the Impact tag titles.
Yeah.
So they had me hook, line, and sinker. So Good Brothers wins. They continue on. All right, up next, they actually show a Camille NWA promo pushing the match he's going to have against Layla Hirsch. So again, more Forbidden Door of showing NWA and Camille, who again, I think is a stud. She's right there in line with the Jade Cargill.
Yes.
Just athletic build. If this matters to you, still very beautiful, very sexy, very feminine, but not your traditional, not your traditional female performer you would see. Right. God, Camille's like 5'10", or 6 foot, legit. It's just an imposing figure, and a great visual, as we talked about last week, of her and Layla Hirsch. So, kind of a cool little promo here with Camille and Layla Hirsch.
I can't wait for that match. I will be watching Empower, and I cannot wait just to see that match and how they put that together. Because yes, Camille's very staggering in terms of her presence, and Layla Hirsch is very good, and she's very small and compact, and I think it's going to make for a good match. I think they're going to have a lot of creative things to do.
And it opens up again back to the women's division. You got Britt who's rolling for you, and sorry Red Velvet, but I don't think anybody's believing in Britt losing right now.
Yeah.
So you got Britt as your champion, and then you have Chris Statlander who within AEW who's rising. But then you have this Forbidden Door of a Camille. You have Jade Cargill, she's the push has slowed up since the Shaq match. She's having matches, but they're on Dark and Elevation, but she's there. And I always just assume, okay, we're not seeing her as much on Dynamite, and it's only because she's getting more training. They are really just getting her ready. I mean, they really are building a nice situation, both in company and cross promotional, for this women's division. So
absolutely, especially now there's rumors of Ruby Riot possibly going into there and some of the free agents. So that's going to be good too. I think it's going to be a good come 6 months from now. We're going to probably be talking about this as one of the better, because that's the one thing that or there's a couple of things, but with AEW that people criticize it is that the women's division as a whole, there are some women's stars in AEW, but the division in terms of setting up a row of contenders has been lacking. And I don't think that's going to be the case come 6 months from now.
No, and I think part of it too, again, this will be unpopular to some people. I think it feels like the women's division, they're playing they're just playing towards the fan, the strengths. They're playing towards the fan interest. And I'm sorry, but I just feel like there was just a disconnect by certain portions of the audience with some of the Japanese women, with Shida, and with some of the women that initially had the focal point of the AEW women's division. I'm not saying they're not talented. I'm not saying they're not worth something. But what I am saying is, when you're trying to establish a women's division, I just don't think, and I think it proves it. I don't think that route was the best way to go. I feel like now what they're doing and is a better booking of the women's division.
And it needs a bunch of TV times and storylines and stuff like that behind the matches too. I think that would give it a big jump. I think as they're building more and more stars, they need to follow this Britt Baker model, because Britt Baker was in that kind of category as somebody when she started it didn't really connect the way I think they wanted her to. But as soon as they let her be this Britt Baker character, cut promos, she was walking out there and I still remember that the Whataburger faces thing she did in Texas, which was fantastic in terms of the reaction it got. And then she started rolling. So hopefully they're going to be able to create more stars in terms of the talent in addition to the in-ring.
Absolutely. All right, we get QT Marshall. He's in ring with Tony Schiavone, and Tony thinks we're going to get QT's going to have an apology. QT wants an apology from Tony. All of a sudden, they bring in Tony's son, Chris, who now Tony did, in fairness, Tony did mention on commentary earlier in the night that Chris traveled with him.
Yeah,
that's all we got.
Clever.
Chris is sitting front row, facing the camera. They bring him in there. They diamond cutter him. Out comes Paul White. He runs off QT and company. A little random.
Very. This escalated quick. Like, I knew that QT had this kind of repartee, but it didn't seem like it was his personal thing with Tony Schiavone. It was just like a heel and the announcer. And he's like, now we got your son. It's like, whoa, man.
A little random. I mean, I like QT, so I like seeing him get TV time. But yeah, the random insertion of Tony's son. Cool to see. By the way, I'm watching Paul White come out, and I'm here listening to the music. Did they hire the same male vocalist to do his AEW theme music that did his WWE? Because if you remember, so the WWE theme music for years was it's the big show, and it's this thick, gravelly voice, and it's a similar voice doing this. I was like, did they hire the same guy? Did they find him?
My thought was, this sounds like they got a guy to do an impression of it, because it sounded like he was trying to do what that guy did. Or maybe the guy got older, and so he just sounds different. But I definitely noticed that they were trying to get it as close to as possible. But I thought it didn't really sound like him, but it just sounded like a guy trying to be like him.
All right, I'll do another pop quiz CM Punk question. So that's like the running theme of the night. Does CM Punk have to have Living Color's Cult of Personality?
I don't think he has to. I heard, so I think they might have been on this show in the chat. Somebody said that it'd be fun to have the Alan Parsons Project, the famous Bulls song. Because this is
for the dance.
And I'm a 90s kid, so I love the Bulls. And I love Michael Jordan. So that Alan Parsons, I think that would be a cool song to come out to. But, Living Color did follow AEW, and I just think that's the song.
Oh, did they?
Want an immediate pop. Yeah, they followed him, but then they unfollowed him. So maybe there's something going on behind the scenes. That's how you know. They unfollowed him. That's how you know something's going on.
Punk texts him, goes, hit unfollow. People pay attention to this.
Yeah.
Hey, Fabe. No, you're right. The Alan Parsons Project, the intro they used for the Bulls in the 90s, that would work. But maybe that works. Maybe that's what works at the United Center.
Yeah.
Which is where the Bulls played. But then I think long term, you got to have, first match, you got to have Cult of Personality. I
really hope so. One of the best mainstream wrestling songs ever. I mean, I love the song in general, but it does fit with CM Punk. And he used it outside of WWE when he was in ROH too.
Living Color doesn't get enough credit. I was actually watching. I clicked for whatever. I searched on YouTube. I love watching music videos, and I was just like, oh, I forget what that music video looks. I'm watching it. The guitar player for Living Color that doesn't get enough recognition. Yeah. I don't know if it's because he's a black guitar player in the era that he was, but like, I mean, dude,
yeah, he really does, and that's what you remember about the song, the opening riff, and then it just keeps going on throughout, and of course the solo is incredible too.
Yeah. Sam Austin. Don't know the currency, Sam, but Raj will take it anyways. I don't think Tony should have gone back to the desk after his son's beatdown. Say he's in the back tending to him and have him sit out the last Impact segment.
I didn't even think about that, but he's totally right. He's a grown man. It's not like, he named the child or something like that. But still, I kind of agree with that. I tend to agree if your son got mugged, you don't want to just go back and then call the match just like, no, it's not even like his head wasn't in it. He was into that match.
JJ Smith, White as Tony's partner on Elevation. It made sense. I guess that's true. Paul White and Tony Schiavone.
Yeah.
So a little commentary. Love there. All right, here we go. Main event time. Fourth labor, Jericho versus Wardlow. Early on, Jericho tries to go right at it. He even hits the code breaker within the first 90 seconds of the match. Wardlow kicks out at 1. Jericho's facial expression sells it. Jim Ross sells it, says, look, Jericho has won world titles with this move. So really cool. And then from this point on,
dead man with it.
Right. It set the tone. From this point on, for the next 8 minutes, with a commercial inserted, this is just heat. Wardlow on the offensive. Even to the point where Jim Ross has a great quote where he said, Wardlow hit 8 or 10 power bombs. Jim Ross says, if power bombing were a drinking game, our audience would be inebriated.
It's a great choice of words. Inebriated. I love
inebriated. Next time you get pulled over by the what seems to be the officer problem, you're I'm not inebriated, officer. You're automatically cut loose right there.
Oh, yeah.
So Wardlow just all this. Finally, Jericho starts to get them the comeback. He gets the walls of Jericho on Wardlow. Jericho's near the ropes. MJF rakes his eyes. MJF then tries to come in and give the ring to Wardlow. Ref Aubrey sees it. She kicks MJF out. She's distracted. Security's distracted. They're all trying to get MJF out of there. Jericho grabs the bat. He hits Wardlow with the bat, then hits the Judas effect. 1, 2, 3. Jericho wins. So Jericho now gets a rematch against MJF, which is going to be next Wednesday, I believe. Yeah. But MJF closes it out, ultimately saying, Jericho, you and me next week, but the stipulation, no Judas. Not just no Judas effect. You don't get to use your music. You're going to come out into complete silence. So taking everything that is away from the current Jericho gimmick, stripping it away from him. But MJF versus Jericho. Alfred, all right, let's do piece by piece. First off, the match. Wardlow versus Jericho. Did you like the match? Did it live up to being the main event here?
Yeah, I think it did. This is about as good as Wardlow could have looked in a match he was going to lose. I don't really have a problem with him losing because this is a 5 labors of Jericho, but I didn't think it was a lock that Jericho was going to win this match. Even especially if you see the Hangman and Page thing, I think people took that for granted. Like, oh, of course he's going to win en route to Kenny Omega. And, AEW once in a while will throw you a swerve. And the story they were telling is that Jericho is tired. And even at the beginning of the match, before they even started, JR pointed out, look at his eyes are fatigued. Of course, The code breaker didn't have the power it did. So this is a great story told, and he didn't win the match until he needed a weapon to do so. So I thought this was perfect in terms of what the main event was, and especially, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, they did tell the story that every time Wardlow's put in these big match stipulations to finish the job before MJF has to, he doesn't do it. And that's great long-term storytelling to go from that pinpoint with Cody, and now we're doing it with Jericho, and then next up, it's going to be sooner rather than later, it's MJF and Wardlow are going to have a split. So I liked everything about this, just about.
Yes, sir. And so now we get MJF versus Jericho. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, the whole gimmick was get through these laborers to get the rematch. I always kind of assumed Jericho would get through this, so we get to him versus MJF. I always assumed that it'd be at All Out. I was a little surprised that they're going to do it next Wednesday on Dynamite.
Very much so. And I don't even know if All Out is that filled up of a card to this point with just a few weeks left to where they don't have time for Jericho and MJF.
It's not. And we're sorry to cut you off, but so I think what we have right now is we have we think Omega versus Christian.
Sure.
We have Miro, or no, excuse me, we have Andrade versus Pac.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything else I can think of that's been announced. We assume probably like a Chris Statlander versus Britt. We assume maybe a CM Punk match, but this is all assumptions. So now I guess I'll assume one more. Jericho maybe beats MJF next week, but on account of MJF either wants help from Wardlow and Wardlow fumbles it, or Wardlow says, no dice, handle your own business, and we get MJF versus Wardlow at all. I mean, because let's be real, MJF and Wardlow could split next Wednesday. We don't need to have months more of building. They've been with each other for over a year,
right?
You know, little teases here and there have been there. Like, so it's the Diesel Shawn model. You know, Wardlow's going to get sick of being the body. You know, so like, I mean, that could be an all-out match.
I could see that, and I would have liked that's the right amount of time in terms of the times they have left to tease tension between MJF and Wardlow. They just have to do it each week leading up to All Out. But I could definitely see that. But yeah, maybe Jericho does go through the 5 flavors of Jericho, and then something else happens. But I do see MJF winning this match, and I am kind of disappointed that it's not an All Out. I think that just based on how they've built this up over a long period of time, you would think that finally when he gets his hands on MJF, and I really do feel like it's going to be the blow-off, right? I mean, I don't see them, unless Jericho wins, which he could win, I don't see them wrestling past this if MJF wins. So if that's the plan, I don't know why it wouldn't be at All Out.
For sure. So yeah, so a lot to take away here. AEW again, the depth chart is full with what's going on here. And again, they have something. You know, they have the debut of Rampage this Friday. They have next Wednesday's Dynamite, where they're always promoting each Wednesday. They have the second Rampage in the United Center. We all know what that's being built around. We have All Out coming. The Arthur Ashe show in Queens and I think it's September 22nd. I mean, there is just so many big shows right now for them. It's exciting. So we'll see how it all starts to shake out. But that was tonight's AEW Dynamite. Again, they will be back in Pittsburgh Friday for Dynamite, or for Rampage, the debut. Again, one more cheap plug. If you're here, or if you can get to Pittsburgh tomorrow, Thursday, follow my Twitter at Justin LaBar tomorrow morning. We'll have some fun stuff with some AEW talent. And then tomorrow night, if you can get to the Thirsty Scholar Bar and Grill, myself, Mark Henry, Dave LaGreca, the beautiful Gabby, all of us from Busted Open on SiriusXM will be at the bar. They're doing a fun meet and greet and Q&A. And again, there's some people in town. That's all I'm going to say.
Love it.
Come join us. It could be a fun time. We'll finish it out on this super chat. JJ Smith, $5. Jericho has a 15-match deal per year with AEW. Has he fulfilled that? He said that on Steve O's podcast last month.
Well, if that's true, he's getting pretty close. If he has,
he's pretty active. I mean,
yeah. And we're only 2/3 through the year. I mean, you'd have to. Well, I guess they could stretch that out, but he does make a lot of AEW appearances in terms of commentary, and he's going to be on Rampage. So, in absence of him wrestling, maybe once he's done doing that.
Yeah, JJ, I don't know. We'd have to go back and pull. We'd have to pull the record books and look at every single week. But yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty close to. Or at any point, he's going to hit that 15 throughout the year. Yeah. By the time this year is done with.
Cage Match will have that information. One of my favorite websites in terms of looking at wrestling statistics. Cage Match.
There we go. Follow him at This Is Nasty. He'll go give you some research there.
Oh yeah.
All right, Alfred, what do you want to plug?
Follow me at This Is Nasty. Got an interview with the Black John Cena himself, Fred Ross.
No way.
Young this week. I'm going to be at the NJPW New Japan Strong show, the Resurgence show here in LA. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so I've got an interview with Fred Rosser talking about that. Just a really inspirational guy. I love talking to Fred Rosser, a.k.a. Darren Young, a.k.a. the Suntan Superman. That's how he likes to be referred to. So that'll be a lot of fun. And just follow me on Forbes. Go on Pro Wrestling Bits on YouTube as well.
I love it. He's at This Is Nasty. I'm at Justin LaBar. Gave you all the plugs. We love it. Make sure you leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Tell a friend. Viewership continues to grow. Again, we're at a very exciting time. So, it's great to do all this with you guys. Lots more to come. We got, of course, Friday SmackDown, where This Is Nasty will be here. We got SummerSlam approaching us. Of course, all this AEW action. So again, make sure you are subscribed to Wrestling Inc. Don't miss any of these podcasts. So much to talk about. Appreciate all the super chats. That's going to do it. Be good, Alfred. We'll do it next Wednesday.
Let's do it.